What if I told you that trying to get completely caught up on your to-do list is, well, it's mathematically impossible.
Oh, yeah. Totally impossible.
Right. Like that finish line you were sprinting toward every single day is actually moving away from you.
Constantly moving.
And more importantly, what if accepting that defeat is the only way you will ever actually become productive?
It is, it's a really bitter pill to swallow. I mean, we spend our entire careers trying to empty the inbox, clear the desk, check off that final item.
Thinking that peace of mind is just, one more hour of hustle away.
Exactly. But the modern worker is dealing with an informational avalanche that past generations, they couldn't even fathom it.
Not even close.
The math simply does not support the idea of catching up. So if you feel overwhelmed listening to this right now, I think we really need to validate that feeling immediately.
Yeah, you aren't crazy.
Right. You're objectively dealing with an overwhelming amount of input.
Which is the incredibly liberating, if maybe slightly terrifying starting point for our deep dive today.
Absolutely.
We are exploring that universal, just paralyzing sensation of having way too much to do and nowhere near enough time to do it.
Which everyone feels.
Everyone. And we built this deep dive around the 4th edition of a really legendary personal productivity manual. It's called Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy.
Classic.
Yeah. But we are not going to talk about working more hours or like finding some magical app that gives you 26 hours in a day.
No, because that doesn't exist.
Right. We are dismantling the psychological barriers that keep us busy, but, completely unproductive.
Because the secret isn't doing more things.
Yeah.
It's really not. The secret is doing the correct things in a very specific order.
So think of this deep dive as a personalized toolkit for your career and, honestly, your sanity.
Yeah, your mental health.
Because we all have that one massive, ugly task sitting on our to-do list. The one we avoid by doing like 50 tiny meaningless tasks and stuff.
Oh, the classic clearing the decks excuse.
Yes. We tell ourselves we are getting organized. But today, we are going to learn how to put that giant, intimidating task on a plate and just eat it.
So let's start by defining this frog, right? It's a metaphor that Tracy pulls from an old Mark Twain saying.
Right. What did Twain say exactly?
Well, supposedly, Twain said that if the first thing you do each morning is eat a live frog, you can go through the rest of the day knowing the worst is behind you.
Which is a pretty vivid image.
It is. So in our context, your frog is your biggest, most important task. It's the single activity that has the greatest potential positive impact on your work at this very moment.
And naturally, human psychology dictates that this is the exact task you are most terrified of.
Exactly. The one you are most likely to avoid.
I see this in my own life constantly. I mean, I will reorganize my entire digital filing system just to avoid drafting a difficult proposal.
We all do it.
So the book gives us 2 fundamental rules for dealing with these tasks. The first rule is if you have 2 frogs, you have to eat the ugliest one first.
Which runs completely counter to how most of us operate,
Oh, completely.
We like to warm up. We want to do the slightly easier major project just to build momentum.
Get some quick wins.
Right. But Tracy argues you have to treat it like a personal challenge. You go straight for the absolute worst, most complex, most intimidating item on your list.
And the second rule is even more visceral. If you have to eat a live frog at all, it doesn't pay to sit and look at it for very long.
Don't stare at the frog.
Right. Just do not stare at the frog.
Because the longer you look at it, the bigger it gets in your mind. The anxiety just compounds.
It's like it feeds on your hesitation.
Exactly. And this failure to execute, it's a massive drain on corporate and personal potential today. People constantly confuse motion with action.
Oh, yeah, like holding meetings.
Right. They hold meetings about the frog, they draft memos about the frog, they schedule weekly check-ins about the frog.
But no one actually takes a bite.
Nobody takes a bite.
I want to dig into the neuroscience of this because the sources touch on something fascinating that happens when you finally stop staring and actually finish the task.
Yeah. It's not just a feeling of relief.
Far from it, right?
Yeah. Completing a major, difficult task physically changes your brain chemistry.
Wow.
It triggers the release of endorphins and dopamine. You actually get a natural biological high from getting it done.
A literal chemical reward for hard work.
Exactly. And Tracy points out that you can leverage this. You can develop a positive addiction to this neurochemical reward.
A positive addiction to accomplishment. So instead of being addicted to the cheap dopamine of like checking a social media notification.
Right, the easy stuff.
You rewire your brain to crave the deep, sustained dopamine hit of actually doing hard work.
Exactly. But transitioning from the cheap dopamine to the hard-earned dopamine, it requires a bridge.
Okay, what kind of bridge?
Well, the sources call it the 3 Ds of new habit formation: decision, discipline, and determination.
Decision, discipline, determination.
Right. You decide to change, you discipline yourself to practice the new behavior, and you use determination to lock it in until it's permanent.
That feels a bit abstract, though, right? Like, how do we practically apply that discipline when everything feels urgent and crazy?
It starts with externalizing your goals.
Mm-hmm.
The book calls this the think on paper rule.
Think on paper. Okay.
And the statistics presented here are staggering. Only about 3% of adults have clear written goals.
Wait, really? Only 3%?
Just 3%. But those 3% accomplish 5 to 10 times as much as people of equal or better education and ability.
That is wild. You know, I used to hear that advice, write down your goals, and I just dismiss it as self-help fluff.
Most people do.
But when you look at cognitive load theory, it suddenly makes perfect sense.
It really does.
If you keep all your goals, your anxieties, your to-do list just floating around in your head, you are tying up your prefrontal cortex.
It's like having a computer with 99 tabs open.
Yes. Your brain is spending all its processing power just trying not to forget things.
Exactly. So writing them down brings the future into the present, and it frees up your cognitive RAM.
You are crystallizing abstract anxieties into a tangible track to run on.
Right. Because an unwritten goal is just a wish. It carries no kinetic energy whatsoever.
So true. Now, the text outlines a 7-step formula for goal setting, but instead of us just reading a long list, I think the most crucial pivot it suggests is the shift from planning to immediate action.
Absolutely. The immediate action is everything.
You figure out what you want, you write it down with a deadline, you list the steps, and then, crucially, you act on the plan immediately.
Today, not tomorrow.
Right. A mediocre plan executed violently today is infinitely better than a perfect plan executed next week.
And to maintain that momentum, you have to break those big goals down into daily lists. The sources introduce the 10-90 rule.
Sometimes called the 6P formula, right? Proper prior planning prevents poor performance.
That's the one. The math suggests that the first 10% of time you spend planning your work will save you 90% of the time in execution.
So just 10 to 12 minutes of planning saves you, what, up to 2 hours of wasted time and diffused effort the next day.
Exactly. And you do this by cascading your lists.
What does that mean, cascading?
Well, you have a master list for everything you can possibly think of. Then a monthly list, a weekly list, and finally, a daily list.
Okay, breaking it down piece by piece.
Right. But the absolute most critical detail, the thing that changes the game, is that you must prepare your daily list the night before.
The night before.
Yes. You transfer items from your weekly list and add new obligations. When you do this, your subconscious mind works on your list all night long while you sleep.
Oh, wow.
You literally wake up with better ideas and a clearer perspective on how to tackle the day.
Wait, I have to pause you there.
Okay, go ahead.
Because this is where the theory always falls apart for me.
Let's hear it.
Doing a list the night before is great in a vacuum. It sounds very zen, right? I write my little list, I go to sleep, my subconscious does its magic. But then I wake up, I log in at 8 a.m., and my boss has just dropped 3 brand new massive fires on my desk.
Oh, yeah.
Or a client is threatening to walk. How does a list prepared 12 hours ago survive contact with a real-life, chaotic work environment?
That is the most common pushback, and honestly, it's entirely valid.
Because it happens all the time.
It does. The modern workplace is chaotic. But the daily list isn't meant to be a rigid prison. It's a navigational chart.
A navigational chart. Oh,
Think about what happens if you don't have a list. Those 3 new fires from your boss completely hijack your brain.
Oh, for sure. Panic sets in immediately.
You go right into reactive fight or flight mode, your original priorities evaporate, and you spend the whole day playing whack-a-mole.
I know that feeling intimately. You get to 5 p.m. and realize you worked frantically all day but accomplished nothing of actual value.
But if you have a list, you have a baseline.
Right.
You can take those 3 new tasks, look at them alongside the deeply considered tasks you planned the night before, and immediately evaluate their relative importance.
Ah, so you integrate them.
Exactly. You might have to consciously push a planned task to tomorrow to deal with the client emergency. But you are making a strategic executive choice rather than just reacting to the loudest alarm.
That reframes it completely. The list is your anchor in the storm.
Precisely.
But that naturally raises a mathematical problem, doesn't it?
How so?
Once you have this master list and new things are constantly getting added, everything starts to look important. Everything feels urgent.
That is the danger, yes.
Out of a list of 20 things, how do we logically prove which one is actually the ugliest frog?
Well, for that, we have to introduce ruthless prioritization.
Mm,
And it starts with the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle.
right, Vilfredo Pareto.
Yes. He was an Italian economist in the late 1800s who noticed that society divided naturally into the vital few, the top 20%, and the trivial many, the bottom 80%.
And he realized this applies to everything, not just economics, right?
He later realized this ratio applies to almost all economic and personal activity,
So 20% of your activities account for 80% of your results.
which means if you have a list of 10 items to do, 2 of those items will turn out to be worth much more than the other 8 items put together.
Wow.
Often a single task could be worth more than the other 9 combined. That single task is invariably your frog.
Yet, human nature is incredibly tricky here because the sources highlight that most people actually procrastinate on the top 20%, the vital few, and instead busy themselves with the least important 80%.
All the time.
Why do we do that? It's that satisfying but ultimately hollow, clear my desk syndrome.
Yes, exactly.
The trivial tasks are just easier. They require less cognitive load.
And we have to resist that temptation to clear up small things first. Small things multiply like rabbits.
Like responding to Slack messages.
Right. If you start your morning answering low-value emails or chats, you are training your brain to seek low-friction tasks. You never actually get to the frog because the tadpoles just keep multiplying.
So how do we guarantee we pick the right 20%?
The sources lean on the work of Dr. Edward Banfield from Harvard.
Okay, what did he find?
He spent over 50 years researching upward mobility in America, and his conclusion is just fascinating. He found that the single top predictor of success, more than family background, education, race, or intelligence, was having a long-time perspective.
Also known as your time horizon.
Right. Successful people have a vivid future orientation. They think 5, 10, even 20 years out.
They don't just plan for the weekend.
No. They constantly analyze their daily choices in the present to ensure they align with that long-term future.
So the foundational rule of prioritization is that long-term thinking improves short-term decision-making.
Exactly.
Meaning, by definition, an important task is one that has long-term potential consequences.
Caught on.
If a task has no long-term consequences, it's unimportant, no matter how loudly it's screaming for your attention right now.
Yes. Delaying short-term gratification, like ignoring the urge to clear the easy emails, is the ultimate hallmark of a high performer.
That makes a lot of sense.
Losers try to escape from fears and drudgery with activities that are tension-relieving. Winners are motivated toward activities that are goal-achieving.
Tension relieving versus goal achieving.
Right. And this connects directly to a concept called the law of forced efficiency.
Which says what?
It says there is never enough time to do everything, but there is always enough time to do the most important thing.
I feel like people twist that law to justify terrible habits, though.
How do you mean?
Like they wait until the night before a massive presentation, pull an all-nighter, and say, well, the pressure makes me work better. There's always enough time to do the important thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But the research categorically destroys that myth.
Thank goodness.
Working under the pressure of tight deadlines causes greater stress, leads to way more mistakes, and forces you to redo tasks. It results in defects and cost overruns.
So high performers don't rely on panic.
Never. They build in a 20% time buffer. Whatever time you estimate a task will take, add 20% and make a game of finishing it early.
To help us identify these high-consequence tasks early, Tracy offers 3 questions we should ask ourselves constantly.
These are great.
The first is, what are my highest value activities? What are the biggest frogs I have to eat to make the greatest contribution to my organization or my life?
And you can even ask your boss or your family to help you define this, because we often have blind spots about our own value.
Right, totally.
The second question comes from the legendary management consultant Peter Drucker.
Okay.
He asked, what can I, and only I, do that, if done well, will make a real difference?
Oh, that is a profound filter.
Isn't it? If you don't do it, it won't get done. But if you do it well, it really moves the needle.
And the third question, which is really the holy grail of time management. What is the most valuable use of my time right now?
Right now, in this exact minute.
So you have your master list, you are adopting a long-term time horizon, and you are asking those 3 questions. Now you need a tactical daily system to actually enforce this philosophy, which brings us to the ABCDE method.
I love this framework.
It's so good. You take your daily list, and before you touch a single task, you place an A, B, C, D, or E next to each item.
Let's break down those categories.
Let's do it. An A task is a must-do. It is critical. There are serious positive or negative consequences if you fail to do it.
Like preparing for a massive client pitch or finishing a board report.
Exactly. And if you have multiple A tasks, you rank them. A1, A2, A3. The A1 task is your biggest, ugliest frog.
And then a B task is a should do. It only has mild consequences. These are the tadpoles.
Right.
Someone might be annoyed or inconvenienced if you don't do it, but it's not going to ruin your career or sink the company.
Like checking routine email or returning an unimportant voicemail.
Exactly. And the ironclad rule of this system is you must never do a B task when an A task is left undone.
Never.
Never.
Then we have C tasks. These are nice to do, but they carry zero professional consequences.
Having coffee with a coworker or, checking personal social media during lunch.
Right. It has no effect on your long-term success at all. A D task stands for delegate. You must delegate everything anyone else can do to free up your bandwidth for the A tasks.
And finally, the E task, eliminate.
The best one.
It really is. This is something you can cut completely. It might be a meeting you attend out of habit or a weekly report you generate that no one actually reads anymore.
We all have those.
Oh, so many of them.
Yeah.
And every single minute you spend on an E task is time stolen directly from an A task.
To put this in perspective, the ABCDE method is basically a triage system in a hospital emergency room.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Right. Like a C task is a scraped knee, an A task is a massive cardiac arrest.
Right.
You don't put a bandage on the scraped knee while the heart attack is waiting in the lobby just because the bandages happen to be easy to reach. You treat the heart attack first, no matter what.
You ignore the scraped knee entirely until the life-threatening issue is stabilized.
But let's be honest about how that feels in practice.
It feels terrible.
It does. If we are forcing ourselves to ignore the scraped knees, the B and C tasks, a lot of listeners are going to feel a massive spike in anxiety.
Letting emails pile up, delaying responses to colleagues.
Yeah, intentionally dropping the ball on the little things feels incredibly wrong to people who pride themselves on being responsive.
It goes against our conditioning.
So we need a psychological framework to accept the guilt of letting things slide.
That is a really profound point. The anxiety of the undone task is heavy. So to counter it, Tracy introduces the concept of creative procrastination.
Okay, what does that mean?
Here's the reality. You cannot do everything. Therefore, you must procrastinate. Procrastination is not an option, it is an inevitability.
You literally have to.
Right. The only difference between a high performer and a low performer is what they choose to procrastinate on.
Deliberate procrastination versus unconscious procrastination.
Precisely. Most people procrastinate unconsciously. They avoid the big, hard, intimidating tasks by default. But creative procrastination means consciously, deliberately deciding to procrastinate on small, low-value tasks. You intentionally put off eating the tadpoles so you have the stomach capacity for the frogs.
This requires a shift from talking about priorities to talking about posteriorities, doesn't it?
Yes, that's a great way to frame it.
A priority is something you do more of and sooner. A posteriority is something you do less of and later, or perhaps never.
Right. You are systematically deciding what to neglect.
And to do that, you have to harness the power of the word no. Warren Buffett famously said his secret to success was simple. I just say no to everything that is not absolutely vital to me at the moment.
And you have to say it early and say it often
Okay.
because your dance card is already full.
To help audit your life for things to say no to, the sources suggest zero-based thinking.
This is a powerful tool.
Yeah. You look at every ongoing activity, project, or relationship and ask yourself, if I were not doing this already, knowing what I now know, would I start doing it again today?
And if the honest answer is no, that activity is a prime candidate for immediate elimination.
The book shares a great anecdote about this, right?
Yes, about a man who played golf 3 or 4 times a week. It was fine when he was single, but then he started a business, got married, and had kids.
Life got complicated.
Extremely. But he kept trying to maintain his golf schedule, and it was destroying his family life and stressing him out.
Because he was forcing it.
Right. Applying zero-based thinking, he realized that, knowing his current life demands, he would never initiate a massive golf habit today.
So what did he do?
He cut it down to 1 round a week, and his life transformed overnight.
It's about hunting down those legacy habits you can abandon with no real loss.
Exactly.
And in the modern era, the biggest source of those low-value, time-consuming tasks is technology. The avalanche overhang of undone digital tasks creates a low-grade, constant psychological stress.
Oh, the tech addiction loop is practically designed to feed off this anxiety.
Technology must be a servant, not a master. And the statistics highlighted in the source material are, well, they're deeply concerning.
Very concerning. The average person is checking their phone up to 85 times a day.
85 times.
Yeah. People access their devices twice as often as they think they do. The first thing they do upon waking is obsessively check notifications before even getting out of bed.
It leaves us psychologically breathless. We are so flooded with micro-inputs that we have no quiet time to collect our thoughts.
Let alone formulate long-term strategies.
Right. But researchers have found that when executives and entrepreneurs intentionally unplug, they experience a cascade of benefits.
Improved memory, deeper interpersonal relationships, better sleep.
And significantly better decision-making capabilities.
So how do we take back control? The book suggests applying the 80-20 rule to your inbox.
Oh, this is brutal but necessary.
Be brutal. Delete or unsubscribe from the 80% of emails that have no actual value to your core goals.
Just don't even read them.
Exactly. Only 20% matter.
You have to build a fortress around your digital workspace, just like you would a physical desk. Block the notifications. Segment your communication times.
The ultimate goal is to ensure that only the actual frogs can hop into your line of sight.
Yeah.
Everything else is deflected.
And guard your calendar with your life. Never auto-click except on a digital meeting invitation.
Never.
Because when you do that, you are literally handing the pen to someone else and letting them write your priority list for the day.
You're surrendering control.
Interestingly, the 2025 edition of the text also discusses AI. It's not about letting AI do your work so you can just answer more emails.
No, not at all.
It's about using AI tools for rapid brainstorming and problem solving to clear the clutter faster, giving you more time for deep, irreplaceable human thought.
You need to schedule large, uninterrupted blocks of time for your own A1 tasks as if they were vital appointments with your most important client.
Protect them at all costs.
You must be so protective of these blocks that your calendar looks completely full to outsiders. This forces shorter meetings and defends your cognitive bandwidth.
So think about your own calendar right now listening to this. Are you letting notifications, pings, and other people's meeting invites dictate the rhythm of your day? Or are you actively building a fortress around your time?
Because if you don't build that fortress, you will never have the quiet space necessary to identify what actually matters in your career.
Which brings us to a terrifying but necessary phase.
Okay, let's go there.
Let's say you've cleared the tech clutter, you've learned to say no to the tadpoles, you are sitting in the quiet of your fortress. Now you have to look at the very core of your job and ask, what is the absolute peak value of what I offer the world?
You have to strip away the job title and ask the most foundational question in business.
Which is,
why am I on the payroll? What specific measurable results were you hired to accomplish? Tracy argues that almost every job can be broken down into about 5 to 7 key result areas, or KRAs.
a key result area. This is something you are completely, solely responsible for.
Right. If you don't do it, it does not get done.
It's an output of your work that becomes an input for someone else's work. The book compares it to the vital functions of a human body: blood pressure, heart rate, respiratory rate.
Exactly. If any one of those functions fails, the organism dies. If you fail in a KRA, you lose your job.
So what does that look like in practice?
Well, for someone in management, the big 7 KRAs are typically planning, organizing, staffing, delegating, supervising, measuring, and reporting.
Okay, making sure the team runs.
Right. For a salesperson, it's prospecting, building rapport, identifying needs, presenting solutions, answering objections, closing the sale, and getting referrals.
Once you identify your KRAs, and honestly, if you aren't sure what they are, you need to have a very frank conversation with your boss tomorrow. You have to grade yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 in each area.
You have to be brutally honest. Where are your strengths? Where are you weak?
And here is the critical limiting rule that catches so many people off guard.
This is huge.
Your weakest key result area sets the absolute ceiling at which you can use all of your other skills.
Yes.
Let me make sure I understand that. You could be an absolute 10 out of 10 in 6 areas of your job. You are a superstar. But if you are a 2 out of 10 in the 7th area, that too is the maximum height of your success.
It is. For example, consider a brilliant manager who is a 10 out of 10 at strategic planning, financial forecasting, and measuring results.
Sounds great on paper.
But they are a 2 out of 10 at delegating. They simply cannot let go of control.
Oh, I've met that manager.
We all have.
Yeah.
That manager will inevitably fail or burn out because their inability to delegate prevents them from leveraging the team. Their brilliance in planning is bottlenecked by their failure in delegation.
And this connects deeply to our overarching theme of procrastination, doesn't it? The psychology here is fascinating.
I mean,
Poor performance in a specific area leads directly to procrastination in that area. We subconsciously avoid what we feel inadequate at doing.
oh, absolutely. It's an ego protection mechanism. If you know you are terrible at public speaking, you're going to put off making the slide deck until the absolute last possible minute.
Hoping the meeting just miraculously gets canceled.
Exactly. You avoid the pain of feeling incompetent.
So the most powerful question you can ask yourself and your mentors is, what one skill, if I developed and did it in an excellent fashion, would have the greatest positive impact on my career?
Whatever that is,
Yeah.
that is your next target for relentless improvement.
And as you improve those weak areas, you start to unlock what the book calls the Law of Three.
This concept fundamentally changes how people view their workday.
It's radical. The Law of Three states that 90% of the value you contribute to your organization is contained in just 3 core tasks.
It's 3.
Everything else you do is support work, complementary work, or work that should be delegated or eliminated.
That sounds almost unbelievable, right?
But it does. We all feel like we do 50 vital things a day.
But the sources tell this amazing story about a woman named Cynthia that proves the math. She attended a coaching session, completely overwhelmed, on the verge of burnout.
Working crazy hours.
Yeah, 10 to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, just to keep her head above water. She listed out 17 major tasks she was responsible for.
And the coach asked her a very specific sequence of questions.
Right. He said if you could do only one thing on this list all day long, which one task would contribute the greatest value to your company?
She looked at the list and circled one.
Then the coach asked, if you could do only one more thing, what would be the second most valuable? She circled it. Then the third.
And the coach looked at her and said, those 3 tasks contain 90% of your value to your employer.
Cynthia took that revelation and that list of 3 tasks to her boss on Monday morning. She explained that she wanted to delegate and outsource the other 14 tasks so she could focus 100% of her time on those big 3, which she did better than anyone else.
And then she added, if I double my high-value contribution, I'd like to be paid twice as much.
And the boss actually agreed.
Wow.
Over the next 30 days, she transitioned the minor tasks to other staff, focused entirely on the big 3, doubled her output in those critical areas, and her boss doubled her salary.
Incredible.
She went from exhausted 12-hour days to working to standard 8 to 5 and finally got her weekends back.
Okay, I see the appeal, but I have to push back on this.
Let's hear it.
Because if I put myself in the shoes of someone listening right now, taking a list of 17 tasks to a boss and saying, hey, I'm only going to do these 3 from now on, sounds like a great way to get laughed out of the room. Or fired.
It does sound risky.
Cynthia's boss was incredibly progressive. How does a normal person navigate the Law of Three without looking entitled or lazy?
It is a delicate transition for sure. And the key is focusing obsessively on the word contribution.
Contribution.
Yes, you do not walk into your manager's office and say, I'm dropping 14 tasks because I read a time management book.
Right, that will absolutely get you fired.
You walk in and say, I've been analyzing my output, and I realized that when I spend time on these 3 specific areas, I generate the most revenue, or I solve the biggest logistical problems for this company. But I'm currently bogged down by these other 14 administrative tasks.
Ah, I see.
How can we gradually transition these lower value tasks to someone else so I can multiply my high value output for you?
So you frame it entirely around increasing their results. It's a negotiation based on multiplying value, not a demand to do less work. That makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. And you can apply this distilling process to your whole life using what Tracy calls the quick list method.
What's the quick list method?
It's a fascinating exercise. You give yourselves exactly 30 seconds to write down your 3 most important goals in life right now.
Why the 30-second limit?
The time limit is a psychological trick. It forces your subconscious mind to bypass all the noise, the shoulds, and the societal expectations.
So you don't overthink it.
Right. It just spits out your core truth.
Yeah.
If you have 30 minutes, you'll write down a bunch of flowery aspirations. If you have 30 seconds, you write down what actually keeps you awake at night.
And typically, the sources note, it boils down to 1 career or financial goal, 1 family or relationship goal, and 1 health or fitness goal.
which perfectly highlights the ultimate point of all this productivity hacking.
The goal of eating the frog isn't just to become a more efficient corporate drone so you can do more work.
No, definitely not.
It is to free up time for the things that actually matter in your life.
Which leads to a crucial rule for establishing life balance. Work all the time you work.
Work all the time you work.
When you are at the office, put your head down and work.
Yeah.
Do not waste time chatting at the water cooler, scrolling social media, or reading the news.
Right.
Every minute you waste socializing at work is a minute you either have to make up by staying late or by taking work home. And when you take work home, you're literally stealing time from your family.
It's about respecting the boundaries of quality versus quantity. The text puts it beautifully. It is the quality of time at work that counts, but it is the quantity of time at home that matters.
That's a great distinction.
You need to perform at your absolute peak efficiency in the office so you can actually leave it behind and be fully present with the people you love.
So let's assume we have done the hard structural work. We've identified our key result areas. We've found our big 3 tasks. We've triaged our daily list using the ABCDE method.
Your strategic planning phase is over.
Now you actually have to sit down at your desk and execute. How do we eliminate the friction of starting?
Preparation is everything. The book compares it to an archer with an arrow pulled taut in the bow. You need to have every single thing you need at hand before you begin.
Clear your physical desk and your computer screen until literally only the single task you are working on is in front of you.
The psychology of visual clutter cannot be overstated. A messy desk signals a messy, overwhelmed mind.
It creates a massive barrier to entry for deep work. Your brain looks at the pile of papers and the 30 open tabs and instantly feels exhausted.
But if the desk is completely bare except for the one A1 file, you only need a tiny mental push to start.
You gather the reports, the access codes, the reference emails beforehand.
And your physical posture matters too, which I found surprising.
Oh, the body language aspect.
Yeah. When you sit down to tackle the frog, assume the body language of high performance. Sit up straight. Move forward, away from the back of the chair. Carry yourself like an intensely efficient person.
It's the literal embodiment of fake it until you make it.
You pick up the first item, you explicitly tell yourself, let's get to work, and you plunge in.
And when you plunge in, remember my absolute favorite rule from this entire deep dive, the 80% rule.
Just get it 80% right and correct it later.
Exactly. Run it up the flagpole. Do not let the paralyzing demand for perfection on the first draft stop you from writing the first sentence. Be fully prepared to fail a few times.
Once you break the seal and start, you have to manage your pacing to avoid burning out halfway through.
And the sources offer a brilliant historical story to illustrate how to pace a massive goal.
Oh, I love this story.
Brian Tracy writes about his experience driving across the Sahara Desert, specifically a region in Algeria called the Tanezraft.
This is a wild story. The Tanezraft is 500 miles across. No water, no food, completely flat like a yellow sanded parking lot stretching in every direction.
Over 1,300 people had died crossing it over the years because the drifting sands would hide the track.
You'd get lost, run out of gas, and that was it.
To solve this, the French marked the route with 55-gallon black oil drums. Because of the curvature of the Earth, the horizon on a flat plain is exactly 5 kilometers away.
So they placed the black barrels exactly 5 kilometers apart.
Which means that as you are driving in the daytime, you can only ever see 2 barrels. The one you just passed and the one 5 kilometers ahead of you.
You didn't need to see the whole 500-mile deadly expanse. You only ever needed to see the next oil barrel.
You steer for the barrel, you reach it, and magically the next one appears on the horizon.
It perfectly illustrates how the human brain short-circuits when facing a monolithic goal.
If you stare at the 500-mile desert or the massive software rollout or the 200-page book draft, you just freeze.
But the brain thrives when given a micro-target. By the yard, it's hard, but inch by inch, anything's a cinch.
It's like driving through a thick fog at night. You can only see 200 feet ahead of you, but you can make a cross-country journey that way. You just have to trust the headlights.
The anxiety of the blank page disappears the moment you write the first sentence, because now you just have to write the second sentence.
You step out in faith that the next step will become clear. Leap, and the net will appear. You take it one task, one paragraph, one oil barrel at a time.
So we've tackled the external environment. We've got the clean desk, the micro-targets, the step-by-step pacing. But what happens when the breakdown isn't on your desk, but inside your own head?
We need to look inward at our own inner engineering.
This brings us to identifying your key constraints. Between where you are today and the major goal you want to achieve, there is one major constraint holding you back.
It's the choke point. It sets the speed at which you achieve your goals.
And here is where the 80-20 rule comes back to haunt us in a deeply uncomfortable way.
Oh, yeah.
When you apply the Pareto principle to constraints, it turns out that 80% of the factors holding you back are internal.
They are inside you. Your habits, your lack of skills, your lack of discipline.
Only 20% are external factors like the economy, your boss, or the competition.
It takes profound emotional courage to look in the mirror and ask, what is it in me that is holding me back?
Unsuccessful people blame the market, they blame their upbringing, they blame their manager.
Successful people accept complete responsibility. They look exclusively at their own competencies.
And once you find that internal constraint, the only logical step is to upgrade your key skills. Continuous learning is not a luxury, it is the minimum requirement for success.
Because the better you are at eating a particular type of frog, the less you will procrastinate on it.
The sources suggest a rigorous 3-step mastery plan for continuous learning. First, read in your field for at least 1 hour every day.
Second, take every course and seminar available to you.
And third, turn your car into a learning machine by listening to audio programs.
That last one is a massive hidden advantage. The average person spends 400 hours a year driving.
400 hours.
If you stop listening to the news or mindlessly scanning the radio, you can become one of the smartest people in your field.
Think about it, replacing 400 hours of road rage with high-level learning. That is the equivalent of a full university semester every single year, completed entirely during your commute.
It absolutely works. Tracy gives his own early career as an example. He was writing his first book, but he could only hunt and peck on the keyboard.
Oh, that's frustrating.
It was a massive internal constraint, slowing down his output and frustrating him to the point of procrastination. So he recognized the constraint and practiced touch typing for 30 minutes a day for 3 months.
Just 30 minutes a day.
That one upgraded skill allowed him to eventually write over 94 books in his career.
30 minutes a day for a few months unlocked a lifetime output of 94 books. That is the incredible leverage of upgrading a key skill.
But getting yourself to do that, to practice typing or listen to lectures instead of music, requires pressure.
You have to put the pressure on yourself because the brutal truth is that only 2% of people can work entirely without supervision.
We call those people leaders. For everyone else, we're waiting for someone to tell us what to do. No one is coming to the rescue.
You have to raise the bar on yourself. See yourself as a role model for the rest of your team. One psychological technique the book suggests is creating imaginary emergencies.
Pretend you just got a message and you have to leave town for a month starting tomorrow morning. What would you make absolutely sure you got done today before you left?
You'd ignore all the scraped knees and go straight for the A1 frog immediately. You'd be hyper-focused.
Exactly.
But this brings up a really thoughtful dilemma. If we are putting all this intense pressure on ourselves, raising the bar, taking 100% responsibility for our internal constraints, how do we avoid completely burning out?
It's a real risk.
How do we stop from beating ourselves up when we inevitably slip up and spend an hour doom scrolling?
It is a critical balance, and it comes down to the neuroscience of how you talk to yourself. You have to become your own personal advocate.
Your emotions are largely dictated by your inner dialogue.
Right. The book suggests explicitly telling yourself things like, I like myself, and I feel terrific.
I have to admit, that sounds a little cheesy. It sounds like a 1980s motivational poster.
It does, but modern psychology absolutely backs it up. It aligns with Martin Seligman's legendary 22-year study on optimism at the University of Pennsylvania.
He found optimism is the single most important quality for success and resilience, right?
Yes. And optimism isn't just a genetic disposition. It involves specific, learned behaviors that interrupt the brain's default negative feedback loops.
Because the brain has a negativity bias. It's looking for threats. So saying, I like myself, acts as a pattern interrupt.
Exactly. Seligman identified 4 behaviors of optimists. First, they look for the good in every situation, no matter how bad it seems.
Second, they seek the valuable lesson in every setback. They truly believe difficulties are there to instruct them, not obstruct them.
Third, they look for the solution to every problem, instead of complaining about who is to blame.
And fourth, they think and talk continually about their goals and the future, rather than dwelling on the past.
If you maintain that optimistic framework, failing doesn't lead to a spiral of burnout. It just becomes data collection.
You learn the lesson, adjust your approach, and move forward. You build new habits to prevent the failure in the future.
And if you do fall off the wagon, if you ignore your frogs for a week and drown in sea tasks, the safety net is a simple mental mantra. Just for today.
Just for today.
You can do almost anything new and difficult if you convince your brain it's just for one day. You don't have to promise to be perfectly productive for the rest of your life. You just reset to just for today.
Replacing an old comfortable habit with a new difficult one takes time and spaced repetition. You have to give yourself the grace to be patient but persistent.
Absolutely.
So as we pull all these threads together from this deep dive, the core revelation is profound. You do not need more time. You will never get caught up. The goal is better selection, not faster completion.
You need to look at your landscape, identify your ugliest frog, and write your goals down on paper to free up your cognitive load.
You must ruthlessly prioritize using the ABCDE triage method, treating your vital tasks like a medical emergency, and letting the minor scrapes wait. You have to say no to the tadpoles and embrace deliberate, creative procrastination.
Find your key result areas, locate the big 3 tasks that deliver 90% of your value, and negotiate the transition of everything else.
Clear your physical desk, block your calendar, and cross your personal Sahara Desert by just steering for the very next oil barrel, one single step at a time.
It is a complete holistic operating system for personal and professional effectiveness.
But as we always say, information without action is just entertainment. You have to decide today, right now, what your biggest frog is. Apply the ABCDE method to your list for tomorrow morning before your head hits the pillow tonight.
And as we close, I want to leave you with a lasting, perhaps more challenging idea. We spent this entire deep dive talking about tasks and emails and career projects.
Right in the professional wheelhouse.
But consider this. What if the biggest frog you are avoiding isn't a task on a to-do list at all? What if your frog is a difficult conversation you desperately need to have with a loved one? Or a massive, terrifying decision about your life path that you've been putting off for years by staying busy at work?
Taking the frog off the corporate desk and bringing it into the real world.
The psychological principles apply exactly the same way. Whatever it is, that murky, muddy, overwhelming thing sitting on the plate in front of you, it's time to eat that frog.